Good morning, everyone. It's a few minutes after the hour, so we're going to begin our program. I want to thank you so much for joining us. My name is John Herod, and I have the great privilege of serving as Outreach's president and CEO. Today, you're going to learn more about our organization and our work as we take you to Cambodia, one of the 9 countries across the globe where, with your help, we work to eliminate poverty. Cambodia is a land of amazing contrasts, from the beauty of its dense tropical forests and massive lowland river plateaus to high culture destinations like the stunning Angkor Wat Temple complex. If your travels ever take you to Southeast Asia, Cambodia needs to be on your itinerary. But this nation of 17 million people also struggles with political instability, ethnic conflict, and more recently, climate change. As you will learn, the result of this trio of factors is an epidemic of poverty. The United Nations has labeled Cambodia a high-need developing world nation, but it has also recognized that Cambodia has the potential, through economic and human development, to reverse the downward cycle of poverty. This is where your support becomes critical. Your support of Outreach International means that we can offer opportunities to local residents to become more climate resilient, to diversify their economy, to use new tools and training to further elevate their economic independence and become self-sustaining, all of which you're going to learn about this morning. It is an amazing journey, and we ask you to join us, to dream with us about possibilities. Because this morning, we're going to share evidence of that possibility and introduce you to the communities that have graduated from our intervention process. Our goal is never to remain in these communities forever, but to help stand up the next generation of local leaders who carry this work forward. This is graduation season in the United States. No doubt many of you just witnessed a friend or a family member move on to the next stage of life through their own graduation. My daughter graduated from college just last month, and to be honest, it was more than a little bittersweet. Instead of the beautiful baby girl I remember, it was an accomplished young woman who walked proudly across the stage. As you learn about our graduations in Cambodia, there are no bittersweet feelings here. It is pure celebration of accomplishment. Serving as your guide on this incredible trek this morning is Mackenzie Gross. She serves as our donor support and engagement manager, coordinating much of the behind-the-scenes project work for our operations. If you contact Outreach, there's a very good chance that it's Mackenzie that you speak with. Well, take it away, Mackenzie.
Thanks, John. And thanks to all of you for being here today to celebrate one of the most anticipated and exciting phases of Outreach's work, community graduations. A few housekeeping items before we begin. Please remain on mute for the duration of the presentation, and we'll have some time at the end for some Q&A. So if you have any questions come up during the presentation, just drop them in the chat and we'll get to them at the end. So here's the scoop on graduation. Graduation is the ultimate milestone for communities and for Outreach because it means that our work was successful. In just 2023, 14 communities graduated across all of our locations. Outreach has graduated a total of 69 communities over the years. So 14 in 1 year is a pretty big deal, and we're pretty proud of it. And we're not slowing down anytime soon. In order to really appreciate the significance of community graduations, we first need to understand the core of Outreach's work, who and what makes it happen, and how. So let's dig in. Outreach is in the business of confronting the injustice of extreme poverty by empowering communities to work together to solve poverty-related issues. Let's travel to Cambodia to visit a community that has just graduated and see this process in action. Okay, welcome to Cambodia. So in Cambodia, an estimated 80% of the population lives in rural areas, with many communities lacking access to the most basic of necessities. Around 1/3 of the population of Cambodia lives on less than $1 per day. Many families experience malnutrition, with women and children being the most impacted. In these families, many husbands are migrant workers in construction and are forced to travel to Thailand or urban areas for work. During the mango, cashew, and rice seasons, women also travel for work away from the home, further stressing family stability. This work is seasonal, infrequent, and because of climate change and the use of machines for farming, it's becoming increasingly unstable and limited. In remote areas, about half of the population of Cambodia lacks access to safe drinking water. The water that is readily available is often unsanitary, contributing to cholera, diarrhea, and other waterborne illnesses. And when an illness like diarrhea does strike, more than 8 million people in Cambodia do not have access to a toilet or safe sanitation. The Siem Reap province, where we are headed today, is especially vulnerable since climate impacts like floods and droughts affect water sources and agricultural work. Solving poverty is no easy task, and we believe that the people most affected by poverty are the most qualified to solve it. This may seem really counterintuitive, but it's a proven method for creating solutions to poverty that last. How do we do it? We partner directly with local organizations in each of the countries where we work. These organizations are made up of local experts who understand the language, the context, and the nuances of poverty in these communities. We call these superstars facilitators. Our facilitators typically work with communities one-on-one for several years. Outreach began working with Haredo, our program partner in Cambodia, in 2017. Today, we will visit the community of Run and meet their facilitator, Phonam. Phonam joined Outreach International in 2020 and jumped right into working with Run. Phonam is an expert in the Outreach 4-phase process, as are the rest of our highly trained and hugely talented facilitators. In phase 1 of this process, the groundbreaking phase, our facilitator builds trust while helping communities to identify, prioritize, and seek solutions to poverty-related issues. In phase 2, the community addresses more complex issues. Our facilitator identifies natural leaders within the group and provides training and Leadership 101 lessons. The group, with local leadership in place, also works towards formal registration with their government. In phase 3, the group leaders now run the show. Our facilitators continue to assist with project implementation and leadership training, but it's really the local leaders that are strengthening their organization and even direct strategic planning. Finally, once the communities have the training, tools, and resources that they need, they graduate. And we're going to talk about this whole process in depth today, so let's get started. Phonam began working with Outreach and doing the first phase of the outreach process, groundbreaking, by visiting community members in their homes, joining them for meals, and learning about their daily lives. This trust building lays the groundwork for the group to be able to work together more effectively later on. As you can imagine, it's a challenge for facilitators to build trust with communities that may have had negative experiences in the past with other outside groups or nonprofits. Phonam spent hours sitting and weaving baskets with the women of the community to integrate into their lives and gain their trust and confidence. Phonam then went about gathering information about the issues that the community was facing. Sharing details about the problems of poverty that you and your family are experiencing is extremely vulnerable, which is why the trust building aspect of this process is so vitally important. During these weaving sessions, the community shared with Phonam the intense need for safe drinking water for household use. Phonam also learned firsthand how lack of safe sanitation, such as toilets and latrines, meant that many families were forced to resort to open defecation, which in turn increased health and safety issues for all, especially the women and children. To help you better understand this dynamic, too often, local residents had to walk to an open field far from their homes in order to go to the bathroom. At night, women and children had to make this treacherous walk alone, often choosing to just wait until daylight. Some of the homes in Run have what they call night toilets that have been installed by other organizations. These consist of just a toilet bowl and a septic tank, no walls or structure around them, which is why people often only use them at night under the cover of darkness. Yet another point of stress is that many people in the community were unbanked. That means that they lacked access to banking services and had no safe way to save their money. As I'm sure you can imagine, not having a way to manage family resources made running a household and addressing chronic issues of poverty extremely difficult. Once joined together, the community began to brainstorm possible solutions and then implement these solutions themselves. But projects require resources in the form of money and materials. And our goal is for this process to be sustainable. And so to make this possible, our experts connect communities to local government offices and other nonprofits that can provide the resources they need to get their projects started. But in order to access government funding, the group needs to be registered with the government as a formal group or mini nonprofit. With poverty issues identified and a plan for the group to be formally recognized, they moved on to phase 2 of the process. One of the first tasks that the community of Run decided to tackle was formal elections of local leaders. And this was a requirement for their group to be recognized by the government and to get that governmental funding. So Phonom started to identify natural leaders within the group by paying attention to who was encouraging community members to attend meetings and who was speaking up at those meetings and who people were looking to for direction. However, Phonom doesn't decide who the leaders of this group are going to be, the community does. Because of COVID-19 restrictions, the leadership elections in Run looked a little different than they normally do. Under typical circumstances, elections are held by gathering folks together to cast ballots. But during this time, to adhere to social distancing regulations, the leadership elections became a door-to-door and sometimes a bicycle-to-bicycle ballot, with local community members and Herredo staff working very hard to make sure that the voices of all community members were heard. In the end, 112 out of 118 group members participated in the voting, making up 94% of the community, and they elected 6 women representatives to their leadership. One of these leaders, Chok Salat, said that she joined the cause because she knew that the community of Run was capable of making change. She said, as a local leader, I commit to actively participate in our group's activities with other leaders because I want to see my community develop, issues being resolved, and every household improve their livelihood status with available work inside their village instead of migrating for jobs in other villages or provinces. So the group and their 6 newly minted leaders that are shown here in their pink shirts then applied for formal governmental recognition, and they named their group Run Samakai for Development, or RSD for short. Then it was on to the next stage of development. They began working on more complex issues and taking on more ownership of projects. One of these projects that they decided to tackle was the need for clean drinking water, safe sanitation, and improved hygiene. This trifecta is known as WASH in the industry. The leaders of RSD knew that they needed accurate, real-time data to better understand the scope and depth of the WASH challenges that their community was facing. So our program partner, Herredo, introduced community leaders to a free surveying and data collection app called Kobo Toolbox. And keep in mind that prior to this initiative and working with outreach staff, these women leaders had no prior experience with data collection, data visualization, or even in some instances, technology like smartphones or laptops. The women successfully surveyed over 200 households to make informed decisions about how to solve their WASH problems. And wow, did they absolutely knock it out of the park. Over their 6 years of working with outreach, work that is funded by our amazing donors, they were able to access more than $27,000. This funded the construction of 72 latrines. That is 72 families whose women and children no longer have to walk to be able to defecate outside. They also accessed 133 water filters that put 133 families at less risk of a debilitating illness, and 7 water wells, providing convenient access to clean water for the entire community. In many cases in dealing with nonprofits, single specific issues get solved, but at Outreach, we invest in human capital. By teaching people to identify and solve their own problems, we equip them to continue this work on their own. In Cambodia, the local leaders showed us that they were learning to solve their own problems by taking it on themselves to look for solutions to the more complex issue of a lack of personal finance infrastructure. They created an innovative approach to building financial independence through something known as a savings group. Many remote communities in Cambodia have no access to banking because of distance, lack of technology, and social marginalization. A locally managed savings group is a brilliant solution to this financial instability. So, savings groups are self-governing collectives made up of 15 to 30 members from a single community. The members, oftentimes women, meet regularly and contribute money to a group savings pool. As the balance grows, members can request short-term loans and then repay those loans, allowing the capital to continue to grow and serve community needs. Members decide the terms under which loans are given and repaid, and at the end of a loan cycle, the accumulated savings and accrued interest are paid out to the savings group members. This method not only gives households a way to save and bank money safely, they also provide opportunity for women to take out small business loans, or afford school supplies and uniforms for their children, or even pay an unexpected medical bill, all at very low interest rates and without forcing them to resort to loan sharks or other predatory creditors. If you're interested in learning more about savings groups, Eileen will be putting a link in the chat to a recent publication from Outreach where you can read a little bit more. These savings groups are not necessarily an original idea, but throughout much of their existence, they've been done in a traditional method of paper documentation. And in climates with a rainy season and where permanent housing is limited, paper documentation isn't always the best solution. And there's many other challenges to paper documentation as well. But in Cambodia, they came up with a solution by being creative. The RSD group piloted a brand new initiative. This was a digital savings group, the first of its kind in Cambodia. The Heredo team was really excited for them to take on this new endeavor, and we at Outreach were thrilled to see them embracing a new emerging digital technology. And keep in mind that many in this community had very limited experience with technology prior to this. However, being the first to do something is not without its challenges. The team could not find a platform in the local language of Khmer or in the local currency of the riel. So the Heredo team approached an existing digital savings app called DreamSave that already had users in neighboring Thailand and in the Philippines, and they offered to translate the app into Khmer with the promise that 5 communities, including Run, were ready to try digital savings. Since the savings project began in just October of 2023, this group of women has saved $2,289. This is an astounding amount to save in less than a year by a group of women who frequently live on less than $1 per day. The second half of this project is providing small-scale and low-interest loans. The Run group has issued over $11,000 in loans to 111 women in increments of $100. These loans are most often used for small businesses, including raising pigs and chickens, which in turn provides additional income for them and their families. Now, the WASH project outcomes and the digital savings groups are just 2 of the issues that they decided to address. In the last 6 years, they've also implemented projects to support small businesses and entrepreneurship. They've launched community health initiatives related to COVID-19, and they've even improved housing stability and reduced homelessness. Our goal to eliminate poverty for good is only possible if our work lasts. There's no point in installing water wells or safe sanitation solutions just to have them break down and become useless. So to make sure that we're setting communities up for long-term success, our facilitators teach people to come together to solve problems and harness the power of collective action. So these indicators help us know when communities are ready to work independently, when they have their own organized group and leaders with skills and capacity, when they have projects and committees that are overseeing those projects to address those issues of poverty, and when they have the connections with other institutions who can provide the resources and the finances needed for new projects and to keep their existing projects going. This is all on top of successfully addressing many of the poverty-related issues that they were facing. The community of Run was ready to graduate. At Outreach, a community graduation is our ultimate goal. When an outreach community demonstrates that they're ready to graduate and continue their development work without our supervision, they graduate from our program. Have they solved every issue? No, but they have proven that they know how to grow and develop, and they have the capability to solve their problems in total independence. Graduation celebrations are specific to each culture and country that we work in, but the one thing that remains the same is the immense feelings of joy and accomplishment shared by the community on a day meant to celebrate this amazing milestone. When we asked her about her experience working with Run, Phonam said, as the facilitator that just ended working with Run in March 2024, it is more than exciting, more than happy, and more than what we expected to see the capability of all leaders during graduation. They are so powerful, brave, patient, and committed in continuing the community group's activities even after graduation. Months later, they are still working together in order to resolve their ongoing issues through mobilization to resource institutions, by submitting their project requests, and continually implementing their savings loan project with regular monthly meetings. The Run community is not the only community to graduate this spring. 2 other communities have graduated in Cambodia as well. Together, the 3 communities of Run, Tabeng-Ket, and Romchek make up the first 3 communities to ever graduate from outreach programming in Cambodia. So, how is all of this amazing work possible? How are these seemingly miraculous accomplishments achieved? You make this work possible. You helped provide the training, education, empowerment, and resources for those communities. And you are the reason that these 3 communities have graduated. Now, Phonam and other facilitators can move on to new communities and begin the work of teaching even more people how to identify and solve their own issues of poverty. So, at this time, we're going to welcome Aline, Andrea, and Alex, our field operations team, to join us for some Q&A. So let's go ahead and check the chat for any questions. Okay. Here is a potential question. How long does it take for communities to get from phase 1 to graduation? And maybe Alex can take that question?
Yeah, sure. Am I unmuted?
Yeah.
Okay. So typically from the time a facilitator begins working in a community until graduation is about 5 years. And we're currently working with a lot of our partners to try to expedite and make that process a little bit more efficient. And we're working towards a timeline of 4 years now.
Okay, awesome. Can we maybe talk a little bit more about what happens for facilitators after graduation, and what happens with the communities? What opportunities are there for them to continue to grow and expand? And what opportunities do they have to maybe spread the good work? And maybe Andrea can take that question.
Sure. So the groups that are graduating, much like the group in Run, have really wonderful established networks, and of course all of those incredible leaders that you spoke about, Mackenzie. Many of those leaders who, because they have worked so closely with Phonam for the years that they've been working together, have developed these new skills of the ability to facilitate some of what they've learned with other people. And so we have this really wonderful initiative that has kind of blossomed from when neighboring communities start to observe all of the incredible work that's happening in places like Run or Romchek or Tabeng-Ket. they start to kind of ask those leaders, what are you doing here in your community? It seems like there's really wonderful things happening. What could we be doing that could be helping us? And so we have this initiative called Sprout, which is short for Spreading Outreach, where basically those leaders are utilized as local facilitators and are able to spread much of what they've learned in really wonderful ways with a small stipend for a short period of time to be able to kind of do that as they continue their work. So.
Awesome. It looks like we've got a question from Steve about our data collection in Kobo Toolbox. So does Outreach run follow-up Kobo Toolbox surveys to assess changes over time? And maybe Aline can speak to that one.
I can definitely do so. Mackenzie, hi, Steve. So nice to see you. Thank you so much for joining. Wonderful to have you with us. Yes, we are definitely trying, and we are definitely aiming at collecting such endline data. What enables that is that we have, like Mackenzie was sharing, we have community leaders on the ground who have such great capacity at the moment to collect data, and they have collected the beautiful inline surveys for us on an baseline data on so many wonderful indicators specific to WASH, specific to household income, and also leadership capacity. And so we will most definitely, within 3 years, most likely ask them to collect such data again for us to determine not only to what extent those initiatives and those implemented projects were sustained throughout, but also to then engage, what other new issues and new challenges have emerged. And that enables the group then to respond to those in a follow-up group. So with the graduation, as Mackenzie has mentioned, we have finalized our programming within a community, but we still remain in a consultancy relationship with them. They are continuously our partner. We really like to continue to engage with them, but the relationship just looks a little bit different as far as that goes. Mackenzie?
Absolutely. I think we maybe have time for one more question. Maybe do young people tend to get involved so that the progress gets passed to future generations? And I'm not sure who wants to speak to that one.
I can maybe go for that one and speak specifically to Cambodia. Because of varying levels of literacy in our program countries, for example, India and Cambodia, all the generations within the community, they don't necessarily have the capacity from a literacy standpoint to be involved in data collection and those kinds of things. And that it was then and has been and continue to be a moment for practitioners like Ponam to engage the younger generation, the youth in the community. They are becoming our champions in data collection because they are curious about it. They like to use the gadgets to collect the data and so on. And in the process, they then also become involved in the work. And then that is sort of like a generational transfer of curiosity on what happens in your community and so on. And I can also add to that, Andrea and Alex can attest to this, being in the communities. It's beautiful typically to see the younger girls specifically, 10 years and younger. They are at the feet of their mothers, looking up and seeing their mothers do the work. And so their mothers, in this very beautiful indirect way, are modeling for them the possibilities of what the future can look like for them as a younger generation of girls. And so that's always so beautiful for us to see. Whether we have research and data to show that, not yet, but that's a beautiful element to look at in the future, this generational transfer of agency, efficacy, capacity, and so on.
Totally. What an incredible testament to our process and the importance of community-led development. Well, thank you all for your interest in learning more about our work that is happening around the world with Outreach International's incredible partners. And thank you, as always, for your valuable support that allows us to do this work. All the best, and we hope that you can join us next time. Have a good one, guys.